What's up, Falcons fans, and welcome back to our annual draft final prediction episode. You're going to hear from all of the talent that we have for the Atlanta Falcons. It's going to be myself, Tori McElhaney, Taylor Vismor, Dave Archer, Derek Rackley, and DJ Shockley. We're going to come in really quick, rapid fire, and just share our final predictions for what the Falcons will do on Friday night. They will come on the clock at pick number 48 in the second round. So that makes this exercise, frankly, a little bit more challenging than it's been in years past because a lot can happen with the first 47 picks. So you're going to hear our final predictions as to what we think will happen once Atlanta does come on the clock. But really quick, before we get into that, just want to remind you that you can check out our pre-draft show, which went live Tuesday night. So if you want a full kind of breakdown of what Atlanta could be doing, please go check that out. You got myself, Taylor Vismor, and DJ Shockley on that one. Then we will have throughout the weekend recaps of day 1, 2, and 3 of the NFL draft on this feed. We will get that to you as soon as we can. It's going to be late nights for all of us here in the building, but it's going to be fun nonetheless. And then finally, we will have full draft coverage throughout the weekend in the aftermath on AtlantaFalcons.com. We'll have photo galleries. We'll have interviews with all of the newest picks. We will have written coverage about who to expect maybe on day 2 and day 3. So it's all great. Be sure to check it out. But let's go ahead and get into today's episode and some final predictions.
Hey, everybody. Dave Archer here. It's draft time. And so here's my official pick. I'm with the Atlanta Falcons Radio Network and AtlantaFalcons.com. So with that, I am going to stay at number 48, not trade. I'm going to stay in there, and I'm going to take defensive tackle Lee Hunter out of Texas Tech. 6'3.5", about 320 pounds. Violent dude that can really get after you in the run game. Remember, this was an Atlanta Falcon team that struggled some with the run. 24th in the league in defending the run game. Did a great job getting after the passers. We know with the 57 sacks. Also took the football away at a great level. Had 23 takeaways in that regard. That back end stole the football. We know Xavier Watts had 5 interceptions as a rookie. So really good in the back end, I feel like. But up front, you'd want to take away that run game. This is a guy that's got, like I said, violent hands, plays with a tremendous pad level. He can create major problems in gap schemes. If you're trying to pull guys, he gets up the field and blows things up. So I love the power of Lee Hunter out of Texas Tech. The big defensive tackle is my selection with the 48th pick of the draft.
Hey, what's up, Falcons fans? This is DJ Shockley, and I cannot wait for the draft that's coming up. And I'm going to tell you this. Ian Cunningham has talked about for the longest he wants to build through the trenches. And I'm a guy who loves the trenches because you can't win without stopping the run and be able to run the rock. So what the Falcons going to do here, pick number 48, I believe our Atlanta Falcons will pick a guy from inside the state. And his name is Christian Miller out of University of Georgia, defensive tackle. We're talking about building from the trenches. We've seen what Georgia guys have done around the National Football League within the trenches. Christian Miller is that kind of guy. You're talking about a guy who obviously is a big-time leader. I was around this guy for the last 3 or 4 years, saw what he was able to do within a locker room. He galvanizes guys. He's the kind of player you want to have in your locker room, but also on your team. He's going to bring everybody around you and going to make a lot of people better. This is a guy that can get upfield. This guy can stop the run. This guy can also rush the passer. But the guy plays with extreme intensity, lots of energy, and has been taught the right way at the University of Georgia. This is a no-brainer for me if he's there at 48. And I say if he's there at 48 because he's going to be that highly sought after. I think Christian Miller is your guy at the defensive tackle spot. And no, this is not Shock being a homer. This is me thinking this is a guy that can help this Atlanta Falcons squad. So I'm looking forward to pick number 48, sending that card up there, and it's from the University of Georgia. And Christian Miller, defensive tackle, will come in here and add some real extreme depth to this defensive line, but also bring value and continue to get after the passer. And number 1, stop the run. That's what Ian Cunningham wants. He wants guys in the trenches that can get the job done. Christian Miller will be that guy at number 48 if he's there. Falcons, let's go get him. Looking forward to the draft, and rise up.
All right, y'all, it's my turn. Tori McElhaney here. I have some thoughts that I want to share. I'm sure you've already heard from Arch and Shock and Will, and maybe they've already told you what I'm about to tell you, but I don't know. I have no idea what they said. So here's what I'm going to say. I think the Falcons should be taking a defensive tackle at number 48 overall. And hear me out on this. We talked to Ian Cunningham earlier this week when he had his pre-draft press conference with Kevin Stefanski, and he talked about this thing called positional cliffs. And what those essentially are the points where you're looking at a position group in the draft's totality. And for one reason or another, either the caliber of player falls off once you get to a certain point, or just the overall bodies and actual depth of how many people are in the draft at that position falls off as well. So what Ian Cunningham talked about is understanding where those positional cliffs are and which positions actually are a part of that conglomerate of these very significant cliffs with not just within a position, but within the draft's totality. Defensive tackle is one that he pointed out as being not super deep and having a potential positional cliff when you get later into the draft. For that reason, it means that you maybe have to value defensive tackles a lot higher than potentially maybe you would in years past. I say all of that to say that's why I'm valuing a defensive tackle so high, particularly at number 48 overall in the second round. It's because of what Ian Cunningham said and kind of trying to predict where those positional cliffs are. I think there are some really good options in the second round, but what's going to be interesting is how other teams are also thinking about positional cliffs and how far up on their needs and also kind of best player available boards they have some of these defensive tackles. Because if you look at some of these groups overall and where some of these draft experts are putting these guys, some guys are in the late first round. There are a lot of good guys in the second round, but no one really knows exactly where those guys are going to truly fall. So I think that there's a really good opportunity for the Falcons at number 48 to get a guy like Christian Miller from Georgia, get a guy like Caleb Banks from Florida. I know he's coming off of an injury, but I do think in terms of just size and what you could get out of him, there is an upside. But I really like Lee Hunter from Texas Tech. I think that he is a guy who he's a bit on the smaller side not even really. He's just only a smidge smaller than maybe someone like a Christian Miller. I really like Lee Hunter. I think that what you see from him on tape, I think he's twitchy for a guy that big. I think that he has the ability to grow exponentially from where he is right now. So I really like him at 48, especially if you start seeing a run on defensive tackles late in the first round and early in the second round. So that's where my head goes. And then from there, I actually think that pick number 79 in the third round, I'm really thinking about moving off of that completely, trying to accrue more capital to potentially go and get wide receivers, corners, those type of guys. But for number 48 overall and for the purpose of this podcast, Lee Hunter, or honestly any of those defensive tackles that are going to fall right in there in the second round, that's where I'm leaning. Love to hear from you guys. Let us know in the comments what you think. But I'm excited. Let's get to this draft.
Hey, y'all, I'm back, and I am here to share what I think the Falcons will do at pick number 48, assuming they don't make a trade, which I wouldn't take anything off the table for Ian Cunningham and his crew in this first draft. But I think they're going to go with linebacker Jacob Rodriguez out of Texas Tech. And he was one of the most exciting players in college football last season, and for great reason. I mean, the dude is all over the field from that middle linebacker position. He was a two-time team captain for the Red Raiders. He has just a tremendous nose for the football. He had more than 125 tackles in each of the last two seasons. He's 6'1", 231 pounds, ran a 4.57 second 40 at the NFL Combine. I mentioned his nose for the football. The last 2 years, he had 10 forced fumbles and 5 interceptions. That is a playmaker from the middle of your defense. And how does he do it? Well, he's a former quarterback. So he kind of understands the game the way that a quarterback would. He understands angles and, more importantly, knows what the offense is usually trying to do. He is extremely instinctive, aggressive, just plays with his hair on fire. And when you're looking at what Atlanta is building on its defense, they've got a young core coalescing that brings an attitude, that brings an edge, but also brings a lot of leadership. And that is what Jacob Rodriguez will give this defense right from the middle, is kind of this multiplying energy, effort, really, I think he could just become the commander alongside of Jalen Walker and Jesse Bates and the group that they already have in place to just make a huge impact from day one. And so really when I'm looking at what Atlanta did this offseason, I still come back to Caden Ellis at linebacker just being an impactful player for the last couple of years. And his departure, you hate to see him go over to New Orleans, right? But his departure is going to leave a little bit of a void there in this defense that I think the Falcons need to try to fill. So even though, linebacker, when you talk about positional value, things like that, yeah, the debate could be had. But I just look at what Atlanta stands to gain by replacing Caden Ellis with a player like Jacob Rodriguez. And I think there's a lot there to really love about not just the fit, but the player as well. And I'll leave you with this. Lance Zierlein, who does a great job with his draft projections and profiles for NFL.com, compared Jacob Rodriguez to Carson Schwezinger, who won Defensive Rookie of the Year last year for who else? The Cleveland Browns. So Kevin Stefanski, I think, understands the impact that a year one linebacker can have. And as this team continues to try to build around a young defensive core, I would love to see them get Jacob Rodriguez, the stash, in here in Atlanta, and he would look great in the red and black. So that's my pick. I think number 48, they're going to go with Texas Tech linebacker Jacob Rodriguez.
Hey everybody, Derek Rackley here, former Atlanta Falcons player and host of the Falcons Audible presented by AT&T. And here is my pick of the Falcons pick in the second round. I actually think they're going to trade back and they're going to get some extra picks. But even when they do that, they are still going to find a way to get their hands on wide receiver Zachariah Branch from the University of Georgia. The Atlanta Falcons had 19 touchdown passes last year. That was the fourth lowest in the National Football League. I think they need to find a way to bring in some additional playmaking style players that are dangerous in space, that have extreme quickness, and that strike fear into the eyes of a defense. And I think you bring a guy like Zachariah Branch in here, he does just that to opposing defenses. I think you put him in the slot. I think you motion him all over the place. I think the games that you could play with him and Bijan Robinson are endless. But not only that, you've got versatility. You bring him in, he can also be your day one returner in the kicking game. That's what players or teams are looking for, are players that bring value, versatility. How can you make us better in not just one area, but multiple areas of our team? So the Atlanta Falcons find a way to bring in wide receiver Zachariah Branch from the University of Georgia, and I think he is an impact player from day one for the 2026 Atlanta Falcons.
Hey guys, Taylor Vismor, studio host for Ticketmaster Studios here. Happy to be back for a second year of this. Now, before I even tell you who I'm going to pick, I just need to get this off my chest. Last year, there were about, 7 of us that made picks of who was going to be taken at 15th overall. And everyone laughed at me. Everyone said there's no way that the person that you pick will be there. And guess what? He was. Jalen Walker, 15th overall. I was the only person that got it right. Me. Okay? So listen. Just hear me out, okay? Mine's going to be a little bit different this year. It's not going to be so obvious. It's going to be a little bit different. I know that there's been some D-tackle conversation. There's been cornerback conversation, wide receiver potentially conversation. I'm going to stay in the trenches because we know Ian Cunningham loves building through the trenches. But instead of D-tackle, I'm going to go offensive tackle. I'm going to sit with Blake Miller from Clemson. He is 6'6", 317. His wingspan's 83 inches. It's a very large wingspan, and he can kind of move right at 5 seconds of a 40-yard dash time. So I think what you need in this offensive line is continuity. We talk about it all the time. And while Caleb McGarry was a great asset for this Falcons team, decided to retire, brought in a couple guys to help fill that right tackle spot. But I think when you look at this offensive line and what they have been the last couple of years, it's continuity. You want a guy that can come in, be here for 4 years or more. I do think that could potentially be Blake Miller out of Clemson. And again, remember, don't think I'm so crazy. I was the only person that got my pick right last year. I may or may not know what I'm talking about. Okay? Jalen Walker, pick 15, read it and weep. Blake Miller, potentially pick 48. Offensive tackle out of Clemson. Thank you and good night.
I hope you all really enjoyed hearing our final predictions. I know that everybody has really been going back and forth right up to the time that they hit this microphone. Because again, when you're on the clock at pick 48, a lot of things can happen in front of you. So that is where I think the best player available approach that Atlanta is taking this year makes a lot of sense, because it leaves them in position to truly just add a player who is going to benefit the roster and help the team overall, regardless of the position. So I know we were kind of all over the board today, but that's for very good reason. But now it's out of our hands. You know what we think? It's time to see what the Falcons do. So be sure to stay tuned to the Atlanta Falcons YouTube channel, atlantafalcons.com, and of course, this very podcast feed. Throughout the weekend, we will have you fully covered. It's going to be exciting. I hope everybody is ready. Let's kick off a new era here in Atlanta.